Hi, I'm Mallory.
And I'm Greta.
This is Chalk It Out, where we spill the tea on what it's really like to be an educator.
Today we are going to be talking about that first month of school. And if you have been a teacher for a long time or you're a first year teacher, you should know that the first month is exhausting. That first day is exhausting.
Yes, but very important to make sure you're prepared, your procedures are ready, and your routines are ready to go for your students. So it'll be a successful year.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick story before we get started.
Yeah.
So when I was doing my student teaching, it was my first day of student teaching. I literally just observed. I didn't even
You weren't
teach
on your
anything.
own in the classroom.
No, I just observed. But I was previously in the service industry, so I was used to staying up late. So I was up early, I had to take the bus there, had to walk, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so on the way home, I was so tired. I literally was ordering a pizza from the bus, got my pizza delivered, got a bottle of wine, got in the bathtub and ate pretty much the whole pizza and drank the whole bottle of wine in the tub.
After one
in
day
a dark
of student
room.
teaching, observing.
Yeah, that's
And I'm not surprised that you were in the tub. That's hilarious. That's how she de-stresses, so.
I love a tub, love a bath. Anyway, it's just exhausting.
It is. That first day, the first week. Whew. Yeah. So if you're a spouse out there, send extra love to your teacher.
Yeah, you better have dinner made. You better have the kids sorted.
Yes.
You better have some flowers maybe.
Yes. And ask, how can I help you?
Or chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Ice cream. Anyway.
All of those things. Yeah. And I shout out to those moms who are teachers, because you also come home and your children are just so excited about their first day of school and want to tell you all about it. So it takes a lot of patience and and then hopefully they go to bed early like mine, so you can de-stress for an hour or two.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys do that. Wow. All right. So let's talk about that first week before.
So before the students come, it's really important to get everything planned out, organized. So the first thing, if you have a paraprofessional, I highly recommend using them to help you with some of these things. But of course, not everybody is lucky enough to have someone, so maybe a spouse or a child to come in and help you. If you're on your own, I'm so sorry. You can do it though. I've done it.
I've done it every year on my own.
Yeah, true. You can do it. All right. So the first thing would be for earlier grade levels, so early elementary, is to color code Chromebooks and iPads. So every student would have a slightly different color. They have the tape you can put around it. That way, when they go to plug them in to charge, it's easy to find their color.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have the little 5 and 6-year-olds coming to you, Miss, I don't know what number I am. Which plugin's mine? I can't find mine. So if color coded saves so much time.
Yeah, I usually number, but then I have the list of kids with their number on the iPad chart, so they just can quickly reference and notice.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, and that leads into the next thing that I know we both have used, is where you use your roster and you number order every single student. So everybody has a number, and that just helps save time with homework. So you can say, oh, number 7 is missing. Who is number 7? It's Jackson. Jackson, where is your homework? Really
Right.
quick. And you can eventually have a student be that job monitor for those types of things to save you even more time.
Yeah, or you can be oh, number 12's Chromebook is not turned in. Who's number 12 and figure it out that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And partner work, you can just randomly draw, okay, 8 and 20, you're working together today.
Yeah.
It's another way to do equity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Okay, so those are great classroom organization stuff. What else you got organization-wise?
yes, I also, for younger grades, label the different areas of the room and make sure some things are closed off, because obviously those little ones want to get into everything that first week of school. So just having a sign this is closed, or whatever you want to do, something cute, but labeling the different areas. So this will be your small group reading or math area. This is the library, but definitely trying to put labels around the room, and that actually helps all learners too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I liked to color code my subjects. So I would have red was social studies. So I would do if you get your red notebook and your red folder out during social studies time. So that really helped in finding materials quickly in the classroom. It was a little bit of a challenge in terms of supplies, because you couldn't really label it ahead of time because you waited for students to bring their supplies in. And then, of course, so like parents, if there are specific colored notebooks on a supply list, it is for a reason.
Yes, please try to stick to that, because then you'll have a random purple and you're like, well, now what am I going to do with this random
Right.
purple?
Or like a unicorn one. I'm like, okay, well, that can be your journal, personal reflection journal,
Yes.
but we're not going to use that.
And then it becomes like, oh, how come she got a unicorn? I want a and you're like, oh my goodness, I just need the notebook.
Yeah. It was like, I just need you to get your social studies notebook out.
Yeah. Yes.
Quickly.
And if you're at a school where parents can bring in materials ahead of time, that saves a lot of time at the meet and greets.
Yes.
If you're able to bring them in for the teachers, then that saves so much time, and then teachers can organize it before students come. Because what happens is that first day of school, you got to imagine 26 first graders, backpacks full. What do I do with this? Where should I put this? Here's this. I have this. Hey, miss.
No one prepared me for that. And my first day, I was, what do I do? And it was chaos because I didn't have a spot for those things. I was chaos.
Yes.
Because I didn't know. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And I will talk more about that first day of school, because you have to have a space and you need to have something for them to do when they first come in, because it is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
And they're so excited. So you're trying to help them, and yeah. Okay. Another thing I was thinking about is thinking about seating charts. So yes, you can kind of map out where you want students to sit, but of course that is constantly changing because different things happen. So just to be flexible within that, you might have a plan, gonna change by the end of that week.
For sure. Yeah. I think that being flexible with seating is important. Yeah.
And then when you're thinking about getting your room set up, just having a space for your schedule and your learning targets too, because I know sometimes people forget about that and they're like, where am I going to put that? I have all my stuff already up. So making sure there's some room for that.
Thinking through like how you're going to stay organized as a teacher, like where are your kids going to turn things in? Because I've seen so many small group tables just covered in teacher stuff, and it's like that table should really be used for small group.
It should. There's a purpose for it.
Yeah, and so if it's constantly covered in papers, you're gonna be less likely to do small groups, or you're gonna pull them on the carpet, which is fine. But I always had my small group with like a separate anchor chart, separate whiteboard. Like I had all my like small group materials, like pencils for the kids and like math manipulatives and like
where you
reading.
Can just reach behind you and grab those things.
Exactly. So being organized that way, like think through what am I going to need for small group instruction, for reading instruction, for math instruction, and like how can I organize that within my small group area.
And that's just how you show up. If you want students to have an organized desk, we need to actually be modeling that ourselves too.
Yeah.
So having that cleared off, and also just thinking developmentally, when we have those younger students, they need to be sitting up straight. They need to be holding their pencil with their elbow. That's just teaching them fine motor.
Right.
So I
didn't even think about that. Yeah.
So I think it's really important to have those small group tables for them to sit at. Sometimes go to the carpet, totally, but there are times where it's like if you're writing, there's, developmentally they need that table.
Yeah. And it just feels a little bit more formal, like a formal group.
And you can see all of the writing in front of you.
You can also see the rest of the class easier and help manage.
True. So you're not on the floor trying to look up.
Yeah, and then they can see you in the back of the class, so you can be like, "Hey, Mallory, get back on track."
My little doorbell.
Yeah,
I would always ring that. Be like,
yeah,
pointing fingers. And then we've talked about this in other episodes. However, I wanted to mention this again, just taking time to look at those IEP, 504s, and ALPs, because you need to know who is in front of you and start thinking about those accommodations.
Yeah, like how are you going to accommodate for them? What do you need to provide? What do you need to get from other teachers maybe? Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, and be cautious, because there's unfortunately some teachers, if you go to like the teacher prior, tell me a little about this student, and they're like, oh, let me tell you. So don't always, like, grain of salt.
Good point. There were some teachers that like never liked to go get the opinions of other teachers because they didn't want to have that bias. So yeah,
fresh, clean slate.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally get that. And then I was going to say parent communication, setting up how you're going to communicate with parents. If you're going to be sending emails, like set up a Google group so you can just type in 2526 classroom and just send it out to everyone. And then for like talking points, if you use talking points to communicate, which is like text messaging and translating service. If you don't have, if your school district doesn't use it, then you might have to set up your individual class, type in their phone numbers and everything and their home language. So looking up the kids' home languages and like figuring out who's in your class.
Yes. And with our district, we get those red flags too. So important to see those.
Yeah, look at the flags.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at those flags. Yeah. Know who is on what. And there'll be things like who's on a read plan. That's also really important to know.
Who's a language learner? What level language learner are there? Really look into the students in front of you and figure out like, okay, I have maybe 10 English language learners in my classroom. 3 of them are newcomers. 5 of them are LEP students, which is like a little bit more farther along on their journey and understanding English. I don't know what LEP stands for. I can't remember. Limited English Proficiency? Maybe?
Sounds correct. Those
don't
acronyms.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms. And so you're going to need different supports for those newcomers versus the ones that have more proficiency with English. And so you're going to think through that. Like, what do I need to have translated? Do I need picture supports for every little thing?
Yeah. So true. Yeah. Take some time, advocate with your admin team. Like, can we take 30 minutes just to look at all these plans? And so I can meet with some support teams to get some ideas off of. And then make sure you meet with the nurse if there's any, severe allergies or seizures.
Yeah.
You would need to know on day one how you're going to react if something were to happen.
Totally. Good point. Yeah.
And then I also have on here just thinking about creating your substitute plans because fortunately, sometimes emergencies happen.
True.
And you don't have time to prep when you're going to be absent.
Yeah.
So a lot of schools, you have to turn in a sub plan. And I thought that might be something we can add to the blog, some examples of that.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure you have like your safety and emergency procedures. Who are your reliable students? Your, schedule for the day, class roster.
And your class management strategy. Like, you can give out these ROAR tickets, or you can keep track of who's going to earn dojo points or whatever. And like those clear, consistent routines so that someone popping in can be like, okay, so I can see that you guys use da-da-da-da. So I'm going to start giving out ROAR tickets or class points or table points or whatever that you do. Yeah, that's a really good point.
And I always have like a little half page of how did it go today. And substitutes are very honest about that. And then there's always, every once in a while there's a class that tries to see what they can get away with.
Yes.
So I like how they can write a little note. So usually they do fairly well. There's every once in a while we'll try to trick the substitute or something,
Yeah, I've had a few of those classes.
See what we can get away with.
Yeah.
And then meeting with your grade level team if you have someone, or your professional learning community team, because those are going to be your go-to people. So whenever you have a question, they help you with planning. They can help answer questions if you're new to the school or a first-year teacher. So really getting to know them and taking time for them.
Yeah, and then obviously plan.
Yeah, definitely to plan for your first week.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, you're going to throw in start getting academic routines in there as well. Get to know you activities, things like that.
Yes. Yeah. So I think those are is there anything else you can think of about before school starts?
Not that I can think of right now, but if, as always, if we think of something, we'll add it to the blog for sure. Okay, so let's get into the first day of school. What are some things we need to remember?
Yes. Okay. So I think when I remember my first year teaching, the thing that was overwhelming is how fast the day goes, but also it can feel slow at times because if you're not prepared and have extra activities on hand, you're going to be like, what do I do? And then once you do that, the behavior starts to go up. And so the volume gets loud. So always have extra activities, and they could be fun things at this point.
It's weird. The first day is weird because you're like not really doing academics, but you still have to plan all of these things to do.
If not, you're going to have kids running. It'll be like Kindergarten Cop for those of you who are young enough to have watched that. Exactly. Kids running everywhere.
Yeah, so over plan.
Yes, over plan for sure. And then just thinking about transitions. So I know coming in, sometimes you're like, kids should just know where to go get a pencil and where to put their trash or whatever. They do not. This summer for them, it's like a whole new environment. It's very structured, very different than your home life.
Yeah.
And so knowing and explaining, this is how we go and get materials in the class. This is what it looks like to put them away. Now it's your turn to stand up and show me what that looks like. Show me what it does not look like. And so,
practice.
all the time. You would think, I have had teachers like, they should just know it. They don't. They
Yeah.
need to just practice and practice, practice and see it done the correct way. And if it's not done the correct way, you correct it right away. No, you need to come back and try that again.
Yep.
So firmer, the better at the beginning of the year. You don't have to be mean, just strict and firm and follow through.
Yep. Follow through. That's huge because if you don't follow through right at the beginning, then they're going to think you never follow through at the middle of the year. Yeah.
I know I had one teacher that was like, yeah, just don't even smile that first week. I'm like, that's a little much.
Yeah.
But
I hate that.
no, you still want to be kind. You can still be kind and firm and strict.
Yeah. And you want to be welcoming because it's their first day of school.
They're into it. So
Yeah.
I'm all for still smiling. It's just you correct that behavior once it, the first time it doesn't work well. You're like, no, we're going to do that again.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yes. And thinking about transition. So how are students going to get into line? Are you going to do like a number order? Are you going to just however you want to get in line? Are you going to do some kind of pattern? So thinking about transitions the first day.
Yeah.
Getting to, to the lunch room, getting to specials. So
Yeah.
I've done things though for community building to kind of tie that in, just lining up by like how old you are based on your, birthday. And so they have to communicate like, how old are you? And so little things like that and to get into line if you have an extra few minutes to spare.
Yeah. I usually, we always had like a line order that we always did at our school, which was kind of new to me, but kids are always like, is it line order? Is it line order? And I'm like, yeah, it's always line order. Just kidding.
Always is.
Yeah.
I would change it up. It kind of depended.
We would change up the line order, but yeah.
And then another one is just making sure you're pronouncing their names correctly because this kind of goes to the story of the day. I was thinking about all the student names that I've had. I'm sure you've had some unique names too. But there's one, I was calling him Damien, and he never corrected me. This was before I started recording their first and last names. So I just, Damien. And then the mom came in at some kind of event. And I was like, oh, Damien is doing so wonderful. Look at his writing, sharing some things about him. And she was so mad. She's like, it's Damien. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. He never corrected me.
Oh.
Yes. And so that goes towards make sure you pronounce the students' names correctly.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of those nicknames can be tricky because I went back. I was trying to find the picture of this kid. I had a little boy that wanted to be called Little Man. So no one in the school knew his first name. I think I knew his first name because I looked. I was like, what? And then there was Little Daddy. I thought it was Big Daddy. It was Little Daddy. And so that's their nickname. But nicknames?
I would have a really hard time calling a student a little daddy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I think we kind of, ended up calling him by his regular name, and his parents still were like, Little Daddy. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, but
So,
I mean, name's a name, I guess.
Be like LD. That's what I should have did.
Little D.
LD.
Little
Just
D.
LD.
Is that better or worse?
That seems worse. Just LD. I don't know. Anyhow, but yeah, so just make sure you pronounce students' names correctly.
Yeah.
That is hard with littles because they don't always correct you.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll be like, that's fine. And so, like, sometimes if
Yes.
you say, like, what do your parents call you? How do your parents say your name? Then they feel safe to say it the correct way.
Yes.
Because they don't want to correct you.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is actually, when you think about it, that's very sweet.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's my teacher.
I
They
know.
look up to you.
Yeah. And then I was going to say, start doing that specific positive praise day one to start narrating the behaviors that you want. So, for example, I know like sometimes with positive narration, we could say like, I like the way you are doing that, but really you're supposed to just take away the I like, because you're not supposed to have like your opinion in there. So you could just say like, Mallory is fixing mistakes. That shows that they are reflective. And then like tying the behavior or the trait with the behavior really helps. And you can say like, blank is standing in line quietly. This shows that they respect other students learning. And then also they're saying, okay, there's a reason why we have to stand in line quietly, right? Because other kids are learning.
The why.
Yeah, the why. I had a kid my first year teaching, Michael, and I was doing that, and I was called him a leader or something.
Okay.
And he went up to the dean. Like, I guess in previous years he had been kind of an issue, some behavior issues, and he came up to the dean and he was like, Miss, I'm a leader this year.
Oh, see.
I
They want
know.
to be a leader.
Yeah, and so just like simple things like that can really change the trajectory of a kid and like how they think of themselves.
Yes. Oh, I like that story.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was also going to say, start sharing about yourself that first day of school. So like collect pictures of yourself from the summer about your life. So you can do like a little about me. They want to hear about your spouse and your kids, but they also want to see pictures, you know, like that really makes a connection there.
That reminds me, I brought a picture in. It was like the third year I was teaching of my parents. Kids were just like mind blown. They're like, "You have parents?"
You have parents.
Yes, you have parents. Do they live with you? I'm like, no. It's so funny. Kids are funny.
Yeah.
They just, I don't think they realize you have like a life outside of the school building.
Yeah.
Because then also if you see them outside of school, they're like, they like look at you really strange. Like, why aren't you at school?
Yeah.
It's like they think that we sleep there or something.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny.
That's great.
Okay, tell me about how you do supply distribution. Because like I said earlier, this was something that I struggled with.
Yeah, so on the first day, they have their backpacks and they're like barely able to walk, the little ones. It's so funny. So I'm always just like set them out at the table, on top of the table. Just put your backpacks there for now.
Like
go
on
to
their
the carpet.
tables? Okay, okay.
Or their desks. Just set them there, go to the carpet. And so that's the time where I have a little activity, maybe manipulatives out, reading, something like that for them to do.
Got it.
For a solid 10 to 15 minutes. And so as they're entering, oh, hi, how are you? Of course, greeting them. You're going to go play on the carpet till we are ready and everyone is here. That point, I'm like, sometimes if I did have a paraprofessional, that's when they would help me empty the things out and put them onto the counter. I'd always have a space cleared for the materials.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be like a mess at first, but just to empty them out. That way, after that, when you start talking about routines and you say this is what it looks like when you walk into the classroom, you're going to come in and you're going to hang up your backpack. And that's when they practice doing that with their backpack. So I want you to show me now quietly what it looks like to go hang your backpack up and then come to the carpet.
Smart.
Yes. And so I usually have something on the board for them to do. It's usually something that connects to the learning for the day. And so I would also kind of go over that at that time. And they would start thinking about that question of the day too. So kind of get, and I'm like, this is the routine. You will come in, you'll hang up your backpack, you'll come to the carpet, think about that connection question, getting them set up.
Nice.
And then usually when they're at either specials or lunch is when I would organize all that stuff.
Yeah.
Or even that after school.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why everything was so planned out that first day with copies, because I didn't touch any of the materials. Besides, they would just like pencil and paper.
Yeah, because usually in elementary school, I would say we usually do shared supplies, right? So like the notebook you bring in is not necessarily going to be your kid's notebook, right?
Yes.
So like we bring in, see like how many red notebooks do we have, how many yellow notebooks do we have, and then we like redistribute them. And the glue sticks are all shared, and the scissors are all shared.
Yes.
So like really bringing in those like special things aren't
Yeah, it doesn't
great.
work. Yeah.
Because then we're just going to have to go buy the stuff that matches everyone else, and then you're going to have your special scissors or whatever, but you can use them, sure, but you have to keep track. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to build a community. Like, we're all sharing our materials that we brought, you know, and so that this is mine versus that's yours.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so for parents out there, stick to the supply list, stick to the colors for sure.
Yes, please.
And if you want those fun things, that's great for like homework or things like that to keep in your backpack.
And if you are buying pencils, how do you say it? Ticaron?
Yes, with the sharpened ones.
Yeah,
that are already
pre-sharpened. Oh my God, please get pre-sharpened pencils. And Ticarandra. I don't know how to say that correctly. That's the best kind of pencil.
They are amazing. And they're your eraser.
Yeah.
Yes.
And same with like crayons. Like Crayola is just the best type of crayon.
Yeah.
We're usually not allowed to put brand names on our supply list.
Yeah, that's fair. But, and also just for those listening too, teachers spend a lot of money, their own money on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So care for your teachers. If you see someone that has an Amazon wish list, maybe even $5, you know, you can donate to them.
Yeah,
because it goes to the students. Yes. The other thing we have on here.
Oh, I was going to talk about student surveys. So this would be like more maybe upper elementary, middle school, like student surveys. I know that's like a great way to get to know kids, but I would just encourage people to like really think through like what kind of questions are you asking, and like are you going to actually look at it, and then what do you want to know? Like what do you need to know? Like you don't need to really know like how many siblings they are. You don't need to put that in a survey, right? I found a really great Edutopia article about questions for back to school surveys. So it's like really open-ended questions. Like one example is like, outside of your home and school, where do you spend the most time? Or what do you do there? Or what languages do you speak? Like what language do you speak at home? Or how do you learn best? So stuff like that can really give you insight into how you can teach them
Yeah. And what's important to them.
and what's important to them. Yeah. So I'll link that article into our blog post for this episode because I think it was really a great article.
They have so many like get to know you different templates too.
Yeah.
I feel like we can find a couple of those. But I do like asking students, what do you feel like your favorite part of the school day is? What's difficult or challenging?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting to see what students, come up with. If it's like I have a really hard time with math or I want to work on my reading. And so I think finding out
Or like
that.
what's something that you wish someone would ask you, or what's something that you want me to know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe later on in the year, maybe not the very beginning, but just making sure they feel like they have a staff member they can go to, like a person they can go to if they were ever upset or needed to talk to someone.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Hopefully it's the classroom teacher.
Yeah, hopefully. But it's okay if it's not.
Yeah.
If they really connect with somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they have someone in the school, then I feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also do little scavenger hunts to find materials and things like that, or scavenger hunts. Got to be careful within the school building, but that can be kind of fun, just especially for the new ones.
I did that too within
transitioning.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where is the Kleenexes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always like a fun thing to do the first day or within the first week for sure. And then just thinking about middle school and how to create an inclusive environment within that, because sometimes we think they're in middle school now, we don't need to do some of these things, but actually you have to understand middle schoolers, they have a fun, personality, humor, but they still do need some.
They crave connection, actually.
Yes.
They might be, they might give you the stink eye, but they still want it.
Yeah. And they want to feel
And they need it.
belonged, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about just having an activity where they imagine a peer in need. And it could be someone with a disability, someone who's learning a new language, someone who's shy, but to really picture a student and then think about how do they feel. So really being reflective on how this person feels. And then what kind of supports could they, supportive actions they could take to help that student. And then having like a conversation with the whole class about it and then coming up with your norm. So we've talked about this. How does this translate to what we want our classroom to feel and look like?
Yeah, I love that. And then always coming back to those norms.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
they're
sure.
just like the younger children. They need reminders too.
Yeah.
And staying firm with them as well.
Yeah.
Because they definitely will try to see what they can get away with.
Yeah, so the first day of school is a lot, and just make sure you're taking care of yourself too, and like giving yourself time to breathe and regulate yourself, because it's a lot, but you also like want to have fun, and like it sets the tone for the year.
And it's okay. Like I know a lot of teachers feel like they always have to do like what are the kids' dance breaks? Can they go noodle?
Yeah.
It's like, yes, sometimes if they're like tired, but if your class is already hyped up to here, it's okay to like do some calming activities, some yoga, some breathing exercises, because the last thing you want to do when they're hyped up is go noodle on and then they're really screaming.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about like that first week and then like the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Yes. So that first week of school, we've touched base on this, but really sending some communications home with families. So that's when you can send a quick email, talking points, something, just to say, oh, we had such a great day. This is what we did.
Yeah.
Here's how you can help at home or whatever it is. So communicate with families.
Yes, love that for sure.
And if you have time to just even take a couple pictures, because if you're like me, I love seeing the pictures of what they're doing at school.
Oh, yeah.
And to
that's
know
a
they're
good idea.
safe and happy.
Yeah.
So that would be something. Then to start thinking about organizing your small groups, depending on your school, sometimes they'll give you a week or two before you start those, but to start collecting some simple data that first week on that. A lot of times you start taking those assessments like iReady and things, and that will give you, more insight on where they're at. But just to kind of start thinking about your groups.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of data can you collect? I did all my like writing samples. We're going to write a narrative following this prompt. We're going to write an opinion piece, like not like one after the other, but like one a day, just to get like baseline writing information. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you have for the first week of school? I mean, it's just kind of almost like survivor mode. I feel
Yeah, it's just really like practicing those routines. Practice, just keeping
Yep. Staying
firm. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, moving on to the final few weeks of that first month. So we kind of talked about the routines again. Thinking about, we already talked about being stricter, more so at the beginning for sure, holding students accountable. And then starting to think about planning for differentiation.
Yeah.
So we have our data now. What are we going to do with this data to get kids to grow?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where you reach out to your teammates and your instructional coaches and those supports so that you can really start doing that in-depth intentional planning. And then really it's just all about implementation and then reflecting on how it's going and what do you need to change.
Yes. And I would have some buffer days when you're planning because things always come up at the beginning of the school year. There could be like an assembly or just different things. So have a couple of those
Or your lessons
days
are
for
gonna take
testing.
longer.
Yeah. Or lessons take longer. So to have a few of those buffer days built in.
Yeah, for sure.
And then another thing I thought about was collecting some type of baseline writing sample because for those parent teacher conferences or just the binders that I would create for the whole year, making sure those get put in there.
Yeah.
So students can celebrate at the end of the year to see where they were and how they ended.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to showcase that growth at the end of the year is great.
And then I think the last thing, we keep saying this over and over, but get your rest.
Yeah.
Take time for self-care because if you're not regulated, the students are not going to be regulated.
Exactly. And it's exhausting. So just prep for that. Saying no to things in your social life or like, nope, I'm going to be tired. Like I just need
Yeah.
to be here.
For sure.
Or like meal prep a little bit, or maybe you get a meal plan service for that first month or something. Like do something to make your life a little bit easier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was a lot to think about. The first month of school is a lot. And it's really just like, I feel like those first 2 weeks, like before kids come, that first week is like the most. And then you're really just practicing and implementing what you've set up. But yeah, if we forgot something, please let us know. On our website, we have our blog post. We have a contact form there. Follow us on Instagram at chalkit_out_podcast.
And same thing for YouTube and TikTok and Facebook.
Yep.
Under at Chalk It Out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we will see you next week.
All right. Thanks.